Hey guys, so I'm here shooting this a little bit differently, but a lot of you guys ask, as a Canadian investing in the real estate market in the United States, how do taxes work? So some of you may or may not know this, but in my case, I'm actually in Canada right now, just a little bit west of Calgary, so just between the Rockies. And some of the business partners that I have that invest in houses with us, they're Canadian. So we do this already and have firsthand experience with this. There's a lot of what if questions in real estate, especially if you're not already in it and you're not actively doing deals. Those what if questions, unless they actually apply today, are kind of dangerous in you actually being able to move forward. So the answer to this is fairly straightforward, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I just want to make sure that when you ask what if questions, try to think, is this actually happening to me right now? Is this an actual problem I have now? Or is it going to be one of those things where, this hasn't actually happened yet, and this might actually be holding me back as a possible concern that may or may not actually be valid. So let's touch on how you actually handle taxes if you're a Canadian. If you're Canadian, you have a couple different structures that you can go about doing. Before I get into that, I am not a tax consultant. I'm not a tax attorney or professional. So what I'm telling you is just what we've seen and what we know to work. But I could tell you that my business partners, the way they were advised to do it, there's two companies that I'll tell you about that you're going to want to probably schedule a call with. They'll give you a free consultation. They work with Canadian investors that work in that invest in the U.S. market. So you're going to want to talk to them. But generally, you are going to want to do, if I remember this correctly, you're going to want to have your actual company. You are going to want to have an LLC. So you can have an American LLC, which is going to be the main member. The main member of which is going to be a Canadian company. So you can do that. Now, we normally recommend that for the American LLC, you set that up in Wyoming. There's a lot of reasons for that, anonymity and asset protection being number one. And then you can set yourself up as a Canadian company that owns that LLC. This is a little advanced. You don't have to do this. For a start, you can just be an individual that's a Canadian that owns a American LLC. You can do that. There's ways to set that up. If you guys have questions and you want me to go into more detail on specifically that, I can do that. But it's pretty easy to Google that. But basically, what you're doing is, as a Canadian company, you're the main member of an American LLC, and then you have two components above that. One being in Canada what's referred to as a family trusts, and then above that you can have an additional company which sort of feeds into that trust and effectively dictates or deeds that trust to the Canadian LLC. So it's like you have a trust which owns the Canadian LLC, and then you have one above that. Now, you're going to want to talk to a tax attorney about this, but that's the basic structure. You basically have it going where you have a company that is owning effectively that trust, and then you have the trust owning the Canadian LLC, and then that LLC is the main member in an American company. That's basically how it works. That's my best understanding of it. Again, I'm not a professional, nor am I Canadian, but that's the best of how I understand our Canadian partners to do it, and how you're going to want to double check on how you can go about doing that yourself as a Canadian. The two companies that you're going to want to speak to double check everything that I'm saying. Again, this isn't my cup of tea, but from what I know, because a lot of you guys asked about this, is you're going to want to talk to Robert Gavro, which is a firm that works with investors cross border. They operate on both the American and the Canadian side. Gavro and Associates, or Robert Gavro is the name of the main guy that we speak to there. You're more than welcome to tell him Roy sent you guys, and that would be one spot. The other is Anderson Advisors. Anderson Advisors, they specialize in asset protection. They also work with Canadians. So talk to them, see what they have to say. I think you can schedule like a 30-minute or an hour-long conversation with them. It's not going to cost you anything, and it'll answer more of your questions in a lot more depth than this video probably does, if that's of major concern to you. Realistically, go get deals, close them, use an LLC, and get the deal done, then worry about structuring afterwards. Don't worry about this stuff right now, because if you don't have a deal and you're not actively closing one right now, you shouldn't be thinking about this kind of stuff, because it's just holding you back from doing more deals. I hope that answers your questions. If you have more, leave them in the comments and we will take it from there. I'll see you in the next one.